What's that?
Sherry Bruton.
Who's that?
Sherry Bruton. Yeah.
Is she? Was it a president here?
She was Justin. Justin,
You know,
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. Who's this now that passed away?
so Larry Brandon that worked at Mountain Findings, it's been over. The old man, it's been over. It's helped there for years.
I know that name. I'm trying to picture it.
Lived just past Satula Village South, up on the hill. Anyway, his wife.
Oh, his wife passed away. I mean, is she old? Is she an old lady or what? Like,
Yeah, I think she. Well, I don't know how you attach something here.
what are you looking to say?
Amy wanted something, but I don't know how to attach an attachment.
Oh, here, see if you go like. See, wait, sometimes when you
I'm not used to
hold something.
doing this iPad deal.
What are you trying to send her, by the way?
Just something that's on the.
Like you have like it helps if you open up
I
whatever.
probably don't even have that's right because I'm probably not connected in anyway.
Just say
Let me see
open
if I
it
can
up.
find.
Like open it up and then there's usually that arrow that's pointing up.
Shit, I can't.
Good. How about you?
Yeah, like a big street. No, the humidity doesn't. But if it was.
It's hard to get it. You never like to put stuff out there for people to see.
The other thing you can do.
Yeah, they were good.
5 years ago.
He wanted USA.
I was doing the Peachtree race.
Well, I don't think she does, but you know that's because the land trust to me has never been just about eight times. It's about the total. You can say place to like that, but it's the same.
I'm cool. I like the sports new sound.
Member of Wayne Manson or he used to be, so I think he comes up to that. Yeah, I bet you like on number maybe 7. Is that? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
The low score was 67.
I know, and that's what you do.
I told some of those guys next to you,
What a resident.
if I have my way, that none of them will break par. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you play? No. I thought you were a captain. Yeah.
Just vote for it.
Eric, did you win your age group in that race?
Yeah.
Did you?
It's because he's old.
Did you win yours? I know you did. There wasn't anybody else in there.
No, but it was a disappointing time. I was going to try to break the rate record for my age group, which I had last year.
Oh, yeah.
Came up 30-something seconds.
Oh, how did the Peachtree Road race go?
It was a real disappointment. I drove down there at 4 o'clock in the morning, jumped out of the car, got on water, ran in my corral. When it started, so I started running. And about halfway through the race, I issued a code red humidity warning.
Oh, gosh.
And by the time I got to the second final center, I was sweating. I was running through those misters.
Yeah.
Halfway through the race, I just said,
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't keep going. I finished it, but I couldn't really do anything.
Listen to your body.
Yeah, I had to stop. That's good.
Here we go.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the August Highlands Town Board of Commissioners 2022 and welcome everyone. Before I start, let me remind our commissioners about our sound system, if you'll speak into the microphone. Since the last meeting, our staff has installed additional speakers over the audience area, and hopefully that will improve the audio. We also have lapel mics on order, so we're trying to iron out the problems we've had with audio in the past. So with that, I would ask that you stand for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda will be the public comment period. Again, since we're very concerned about making sure that especially anybody that's on YouTube can hear what is being said, if you'd like to make a public comment, I'd appreciate you coming to the podium where we have a microphone so we make sure that it is heard by everyone. And I appreciate, of course, you stating your name and keeping your remarks to approximately 3 minutes. With that said, I know that some folks might want to talk about the short-term rentals, and since it's public comments, you're free, of course, to say anything that, is on your mind or of concern to you. I will remind everyone, though, that we will be having a public hearing concerning the recommendations related to short-term rentals, and that will be next Thursday, the 25th at 5 o'clock. And we'll be discussing the procedures for conducting that hearing in just a few minutes. But with that said, if anyone would like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium and express your thoughts. I'm going to determine that we have no public comment tonight. And we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, and that will be to review and approve the agenda. Do we have any changes to the proposed agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item will be the approval of the July 21st regular meeting minutes. I want to, before we do that, express my appreciation to Commissioner Dotson, who conducted the meeting as the Mayor Pro Tem. I was not here in July, but with that said, do we have any changes, corrections, additions to the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, got a second. Okay, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. All right, the next thing will be the mayor's reports and the reports of the commissioners and the town manager. So let me, I've got kind of a list of things I want to report on tonight. We have a shorter agenda, and I think it's important to do that. Again, I appreciate Commissioner Dotson for filling in while I was away with grandchildren. in July. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fire department. We're nearing completion of the fire department. It's getting to a point where it will no longer be a construction site in the coming weeks. And what I would propose that we have basically a tour for all of the town board of commissioners at one time, and the media, and also anyone else who would like to join us. And the plan would be, once the fire chief and town manager feels like we have a date when we can set that up, we will coordinate with the commissioners and have that initial tour as we begin the process of moving into the fire department. The other thing that I'd like to kind of report on and reflect on tonight is that, everybody understands we've really been dealing with the issue of the short-term rentals and the amendments and so forth. It's gotten to a point in many ways where I think we need to move through and resolve those issues and start looking at some of the bigger issues in the town. Start having some committee meetings of the Board of Commissioners and addressing some of these. And I'm going to outline just a few things that I'd like to see happening as we go into the fall season. First of all, I'd like to see the Recreation Committee look at two different issues. Last year, we accepted a $30,000 gift, an anonymous gift, to improve the playground equipment at the rec park. At that time, the donor said that there would be other people that would be participating and want to donate to that project of improving the playground equipment. I got word this past week that there will be another $70,000 coming in to where it would be about a $100,000 project. I'd like for our Recreation Committee to work with Lester and his staff in developing a plan on how we use those funds for improving the playground equipment, and also bring in the people who've given the gift and of course, consult with them also. That's one thing I'd like to see the committee do. The other thing is we have demolished the Houston House, and I've been working, and Lester Norris also has been working with the coalition that has been formed of churches and different agencies, the Highlands Child Care Center and so forth, a coalition that's looking at how we can improve child care in Highlands. That is a real critical need, not just in Highlands, but throughout the whole country. But this group has been meeting and looking at options, and it's not a one size fits all. There are many moving parts to it. We have need for expansion of infant care, which our child care center is doing, but they're challenged with things such as staffing and so forth. I think the town has a role to play too, not to be doing through day child care, but the Houston House used to be an after-school center and program for our students. It got to a point where that house had degraded so much, especially during COVID, that we had to tear it down. But Paul Smith had presented kind of a conceptual design for a new facility. Again, a facility like that could be used for after-school programs and summer camp programs. All of those things fit into this whole design of improving child care. So I'd like the rec committee to start looking at how we can move forward with replacing the Houston House. Now, this is a very difficult time to be doing construction, and it might be that we have to kind of look at cost and take Paul's conceptual model and drawing and make some changes so we can see that this actually gets done and the Houston House is replaced. But that's something that I'd like to see us work on.
Hallelujah.
The other thing is Commissioner Hayne and I both met here in this building last night with the Mirror Lake Homeowners Association. And I know that Pat Gleason came and spoke and gave a very, I thought, effective report on.
Is that the Improvement Association?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they gave up the board just a few months ago a very comprehensive approach to how Mirror Lake can be restored. So there was a big group of homeowners there last night, and they were trying to focus and move forward with their plans. One of the things they're doing, they're raising money for phase one, and they're now well over $200,000 of a $500,000 phase one project. I spoke because I've talked with our state representatives. I think there's a strategy where we can involve the state in getting money to help address this restoration project coming up. And I see the town as being a potential partner in getting this done, because this is a part of our watershed. It involves a lot of neighborhoods, about 200 residents in that Mirror Lake area. So I'll be meeting with the Homeowners Association. Commissioner Haynes has been in communication with them also, and we'll be trying to find ways to fund this very important project. The other thing that I wanted to update on would be the radio tower or the radio antenna on the town tower. There's an issue of doing a lease renewing the lease with the radio station. There were some other concerns that had been brought up by Chuck Cooper about potential interference with the cell phone antenna and the radio antenna and so forth. Josh can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's an intermodal study that we had hired an outside agency to do. That has taken some time, but that has been done, and they will be developing a report. And when that happens, we will get back to the full board and start moving forward and addressing any problems that might be there, and also renewing that lease. A couple of other things that we've got on the agenda ahead of us. We talked about having a joint meeting with the Chamber of Commerce Board in the coming months, and I'd like to see that happen hopefully as early as next month, where we could sit down and talk about what the Chamber's doing and what we're doing and some common concerns. The other thing that we talked about was the car charging station program, and the Chamber brought that to our attention. We have now learned that the Franklin town government, they have installed car charging stations in their parking lot at Town Hall. They're working with Duke Energy. There's a program there. And a big question, I think, was answered. They're not going with those slow 4 and 6 hour chargers. They're going with the 30-minute to 1 hour chargers. We want to continue to explore that. I've talked with our town manager. I think maybe since we're a wholesale customer of Duke, we might not fit the model that they have intended, but certainly it's worth us looking at, could Duke Energy be, a player in this idea of providing car charging stations here in Highlands. So those are some of the things that I would like to see us do. And then finally, this would fall into several possible committees: land use, public safety, and others. One is the issue of overnight sleeping on town property. We have a lot of property here, especially around the recreation department. I'd like to see us look at what is our policy, what are our ordinances, and what we can do and can't do in that regard. Then we've been talking about this, and that is noise and weekend construction. That is another thing that we need to look at. I know on the Facebook and everything, there's been a lot of talk about sidewalks. And today I even got an email from folks on Chestnut, where people walk down Chestnut and they're concerned about traffic and pedestrians. We talked as a board just recently about the possibility of extending a sidewalk on Chestnut. I still think that's something to look into, along with our master sidewalk plan and how we could get the sidewalks in critical corridor areas completed. That would be something that I think we need to look at. Another thing that I want to see us look at is in grubbing, that is burning construction materials in the town of Highlands. I was looking at the reports in the agenda packet just this afternoon, and our code enforcement person had a report where someone was a construction site where they were burning materials, and there was a report, and it was kind of a potential hazard and the officer had to intervene and correct that situation. I think we need to look at this idea of grubbing. I've gotten complaints from people in neighborhoods where there's just a constant smoke for weeks. That used to be a traditional way of removing construction material, but there are places like Waynesville that have addressed this issue. Another item I wanted to just kind of point out, again, from reading the reports, trucks on the Gorge Road. I noticed that Officer McCall in her report had 2 cases where she stopped truckers who were going down that Gorge Road. One ended in a citation. The other one did not, because that trucker was carrying equipment to Gold Mine Road, and they had received permission and a clearance from the State Patrol to do that, because that was the only way that equipment could get there. But we are looking at truckers whenever possible. We can't have a police officer there 24/7 to try to stop, these truckers who are over the length of the trailer from using that road. So one other final thing, and then I'll turn it over. Someone asked me today with the new takeover of Spinks at the gas station, why didn't we allow them to put up the illuminated signs like in other places that advertise the price per gallon? And I will defer to Josh, but it's a part of our sign ordinance. You cannot put up illuminated signs of that kind. So the alternative is just drive through and look at the gas pump and then drive on. So that's all I have, and I'm going to now turn it over to the commissioners if they have any reports that they would like to make.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank you and Josh and the town board for funding the repairs to the sidewalk at the First Presbyterian Church. It was a disgrace, and now it's something that we can take pride in front of that historic building. And I can't thank the planning board enough. I attended 2 of the 3 meetings, and they did a deep dive on a very, very difficult and matter. And they've got a very good understanding. I was disappointed the attorney only attended part of 1 meeting, but I think they did a good job.
Okay, good. And the Presbyterian Church has added that wall that has made that whole area look really good.
Right.
Very good. Any other reports? Mr. Ward, town manager's report.
Well, we have some exciting news. As you remember, several months back, we applied for 2 grants for funding for water infrastructure projects. One was Dog Mountain water line and water tank replacement project. Another was our pre-clarifier tank and pump station at the water treatment plant. We were notified that we got 100% grant funding for the Dog Mountain water line and water tank project. So we're very excited about that. We'll be going through the process. As soon as we get official notification and instruction, we'll be sending out some RFPs for engineering. And then after that, we'll follow the RFPs for construction. So we don't really have a timeline at this point, but that is good news. And I know the folks at Dog Mountain are going to be happy. The total for that grant is $3,386,495. So it's a big project. Also, we were notified by our House member that Carl Gillespie that $220,000 had been put in the state budget this year for water and sewer projects. Talked to Lamar Nix briefly, our public works director, about that. So we're still looking at exactly what project to put that money toward. We're still waiting to spend the $100,000 from the last budget. We're having to follow the steps through that. So hopefully by next May, we'll get to spend that. So I don't know how long it's going to take for this one, but we'll have something in line. We got to do some paperwork. I know Rebecca's got to do some financial forms and things to send in to them. So we're happy to receive any money we can on that. So also the ADA transition study is coming to an end. Michael, if I'm not mistaken, October is when they'll be to the board, I think, for presentation, if not November.
Yeah, I believe so.
So we're getting close to that. They've done their studies all around town, the sidewalks, crosswalks. We've looked at the buildings, so they'll have their report here in the next couple months on that. And I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Two questions. Josh, you said you're going to apply for revolving loan funds for the clarifier in the fall?
So, yes, glad you brought that up. So the clarifier tank application will go into the fall cycle. So they're going to have another cycle in the fall. They rescored it and it will be submitted. Most of those that are selected in the fall will be loan through the state revolving loan fund. So it scored a little lower than the Dog Mountain's reason it didn't get funded. So hopefully we find out something in the fall from it. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to get a no interest grant or something like that.
Right.
Correct.
I want to ask one more question. How many openings do we have in all departments?
Openings in departments.
Vacant positions, correct.
We don't have many. We've had some move around a little bit in some of the water department, I think, and sanitation. So
What about police?
police, we have 2 openings. One will be filled soon. So we still have one. We have a certain person that might be interested now.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we've been very fortunate.
And let me say, I was delighted. I know earlier in the summer, we were kind of getting feedback that we might not get any funding from those 2 grants. And then all of a sudden, we scored high enough to get that Dog Mountain grant. That's been kind of a part of a program that we've been doing, replacing 2-inch galvanized water lines. We replaced the Tula Falls split rail. We just replaced Morewood Drive, and now we'll be able to do that along with other improvements on Dog Mountain. But the good news, that lets us check off one major project that we were facing, how we were going to fund it. And I'm really optimistic that with the water clarifier that we will hopefully get that funded as a revolving loan or partially funded so we can, address that project too. So those were good projects and good news that we got full funding on one of them.
And to go over briefly over the Dog Mountain project, it actually replaces all 2-inch galvanized with 6-inch ductile, which allow for fire hydrants to be placed up through there to give fire protection. And the water tank right now currently is 12,500 gallons. It'll be increased to 75,000 gallons.
Okay, so, very good. All right. Next would be the consent agenda. Do we have any questions concerning the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Rebecca, did you give us both end of last fiscal year and end of July?
And July.
Okay,
And the reason I did that is the auditors were just here to speak, so it's not finalized.
okay,
And I told you I'll always give you the final, so that's why it still says June 30th preliminary.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the recreation is down because we haven't gotten the final,
It's only down, what, 85,000?
oh,
It was because they were going to give us half of the lots of the ball field.
that's what I was trying to figure out.
And they only gave us half of the pickleball lots. Still wasn't the same quote. Yeah. So it was not as much money as we had budgeted originally.
Oh, okay,
They've given us all 4 quarters.
okay, they've given it all to us, and so,
I'd have to look back and check my numbers exactly maybe on the other part.
okay, I just wanted to know, because that was the only one that was really a little bit of,
Originally, don't you remember exactly? And it's almost, yeah, so.
okay, that's what it is. Okay, okay, I just want to make sure that was what it was.
That's the difference.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. We have the motion on the floor then. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. Okay. The next item would be a budget amendment, fire department grant recognition. Chief Ryan Gerhart.
As y'all probably recall, in March, Davis came and presented in my absence about looking at some grants. One of them was a $10,000 COVID-19 grant that the state was essentially just giving away. So we applied for that and have received that. And one of the things that we were looking at doing was doing a boot allowance for our volunteers. Which comes out to roughly $5,800, somewhere in there. And then the remainder would be put into buildings and maintenance, wasn't it? For weight equipment for the new building. The $35,000 one that was applied for also, we have not heard anything back on it yet. So since we do, I'll let you know about it.
Move to approve the budget transfer.
Okay,
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
I have a question after the vote.
Okay.
Chief, I know y'all are working on an equipment list for the new station, you and Josh. Is there any grants y'all are looking at, or would you look at grants to see if we can get any funding to help with that? I'm sure it's going to be expensive.
The $35,000 grant is, we did list a bunch of stuff for the new station.
Right.
One of the big ticket items being the extractor and the dryer for our turnout gear.
Right. But I'm sure there's going to be a long list.
Furnishings, so on and so forth. We've been discussing that
Okay.
quite a bit. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Just a quick update. We did get the generator put in today and temporary power on in the building. So
Okay.
we do have some lights in the building.
And your fire sprinkler system is it functioning now?
The supply line passed the 200-pound test yesterday and got flushed yesterday. So they should be able to start stacking the riser for it at any time. The ceiling grid is going in. A lot of the painting is done. It's moving right along. Exterior concrete's probably 75% done.
Okay.
So we had an initial September estimate of completion. Is that still on or?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Hopefully be moved in October at some point.
You know, a lot of people don't understand that it's got space for full-time firemen and the benefit of that, and that it really does take 4 or 5 people to run one truck, and we're only going to have 2. But there's a lot of things people don't understand. We ought to work on educating them why we built a building for the next 100 years.
I agree.
Why it's so large.
Right.
That's what everybody says. It's so large.
Thank you. And that'll be a segue into the next thing, and that's the reevaluation, proposed schedule evaluations. I was at the last county board meeting, and the director of the tax office came up and put up the proposed procedures for doing the reevaluation process. Also did a schedule of values. What I found to be just amazing was that the county was right at around, I think I'm 8 billion. I'd have to look at it. Yeah, just under 8 billion in 2019 of total appraised value of property for the whole county. It is now at 12 billion. And what was so revealing to me was that Highlands led the way with a 57% increase in valuation, and we are now at, I think, 2.8 billion, followed by the township of Highlands, which was behind at 2.6. You add those up, and that's 5 plus, almost 6 billion out of the 12 of total property values in the community. Segues into the fire department. We need a good full-time fire department to protect a lot of property value that we have, here on the plateau. Now, I'm not going to go into this specifically. There will be a public hearing. I think it's scheduled for September the 13th, and then there'll be a process once people start getting their reevaluations. I get this a lot when we do this. How could those tax people do this to my property? And I'm outraged and I want to go to appeal. There will be a process, and the county will keep everybody informed as to how to go through that process if you want to appeal those.
Right here is the.
Yes, so that's the 13th, the public hearing. And then it goes from there. The Board of Commissioners will make a final approval. And then we'll move into the reevaluation cycle that we do every 4 years. So we'll keep you posted on that. And also, I am sure that both the town government and the county government will certainly pay very close attention to the process of doing a revenue neutral application to these new values. So we'll go through that process, especially as we develop the new budget for the coming year. All right, the next item, number 10, that would be the short-term rental public hearing procedures. I have basically put in the same type of procedures that we followed with our February 26th public hearing. And that will be the way we conduct this public hearing. I do want to make sure that the board's on board with me. I think we should conduct that public hearing, which could be lengthy in duration. And then after that, take no immediate action on the short-term rental amendments. I think we would simply, after the hearing, possibly schedule 1 or 2, if you will, workshops or working meetings where we look at the recommendations and ask questions and so forth, and then take action at a later date. So that would be my plan. But again, I would be happy to entertain any input or changes that the Board of Commissioners would like to make. So I'll throw it open.
Mr. Mayor, I just got a message that the folks on YouTube can't hear you for some reason. I don't know. They say the volume you might be too close to the volume too high. I don't know, but it's not going across YouTube.
It's going out here though.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. On the scheduling of the short-term,
Excuse me, Michael, will you look into that, please?
Thank you.
on scheduling the short-term rental, do you want to go ahead and schedule a workshop, initial workshop for the next week after the 25th?
We certainly could.
And that way everybody knows when it's going to be. If it's 1, if it's 2, I don't know how you want to do it. I almost think we need to put a deadline on this thing when we get it done. Otherwise, it's going to go on and on and on. So I don't know how you want to do it, but I wouldn't go more than 2 weeks after the public hearing before we have a decision.
Okay. I'd suggest that we would skip that first, we've got Labor Day thereafter, but then we would have the week of the 5th through the 9th. Would we want to set that workshop meeting on the September the 8th?
Well, the public hearing's the 25th.
Correct.
What's wrong with something in the week of the 29th through the 2nd? I mean, maybe we don't do it September 1 if people are going to be going on Labor Day, because Labor Day is the 5th,
Okay.
like the 30th, the Tuesday afterwards. And I don't know what time of day or anything, if you want to do it at 5 or how you want to do it or schedule it, or you want Brian and I to get together and then put together a process, how we figure out, because we've got 3 proposals here that we're looking at.
I'd like us all to be involved, or if nobody else wants to come.
Well, I'm not talking about being involved, just putting together the process so that we're not zigzagging around. We have this to decide, this to decide, this to decide, this to decide.
There's a lot to decide when you look.
I know there's a lot to
whole
decide.
lot, yeah.
But when we have a tendency to get all of us in the room, if we don't have a process to go, a structure of where we're going and what decisions to make first, we seem to never get anything done.
Well, when we get down to one recommendation, I'll bet we've got really good comments from both groups that they've marked through what was suggested from the Planning Commission. Kathy just sent that, and James and Carol. And then we've got the old comments from the Save Highlands group. I bet we get new comments from them on the planning board's recommendations. I think it's going to be really easy to go through.
Okay.
I really do. We're going to have the draft. We'll have a markup. And if it's gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of time. That's
Yes.
what I'm saying.
But
It doesn't mean it's easy.
Well,
Fine, I'll have everybody there, but I think we need to get the process rolling. I don't think we need to say, okay, let's put it off till after Labor Day. Let's put it off to this. Let's go that next week right afterward. We'll have all the public comments in because they have to be in within 24 hours of the public comment period, right? Which is Friday. So by
Correct.
the next Tuesday, we should have all of those things, hopefully, that we could I mean, I don't know that there's going to be anything new to what we would get.
we got three options. You gotta pick one now. And then you gotta pick.
Well,
go
you
from
can
there.
mix and match. You don't. have
Yeah,
to
I
pick
know that.
one.
Yeah, we don't have to follow the planning board.
Yeah, so, but that's what I'm saying is we can throw some things out and say, absolutely not, winnow it down to where we can actually get something together, but we need to start.
So
Call me whenever you just.
let us plan on meeting on August the 30th.
Is that Tuesday?
That would be the Tuesday, August the 30th. And what time would the board want to meet? What time would you want to do
I'm
it?
retarded. I don't think.
I can meet anytime after 10 o'clock.
Okay,
Eric and Brian and Buzz probably have to tell us when they can meet.
Yeah, I'm flexible.
6 o'clock.
I like the 6 o'clock time frame myself, but
Okay,
Okay,
let's plan on that then.
okay.
Does everybody agree we will have that workshop meeting then?
I'll miss my fire meeting, but that's okay.
What's
Do
it?
what now?
I'll miss my fire meeting, but that's okay.
Okay,
You want to do it on Monday?
okay, we will then meet on August the 30th at 6 o'clock in this building. And it, of course, will be open to the public. Okay. And what I'm hearing is we might need to have more than one meeting if necessary.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, but we'll start. All right,
Well, then we have Thursday to meet then too.
what's that?
Then we have the 2 days later at Thursday.
Okay,
I'm just trying to move this along. It's been a long time.
yeah.
correct.
So I think everybody's getting frustrated
You're
and
having them long enough?
frustrated, and kind of tired of it. We need to just go ahead and do it.
Do it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, the next item, the March 3rd letter from Derek Allen.
But had we gone through the procedures, there was one other thing you wanted me to bring up.
Okay, thank
The
you.
procedures don't
All right,
have.
we'll go
you need
back.
to state their name and where they reside.
All right,
You don't want to take anonymous emails, but you don't make the here, I mean, you can tell them that, but just as a written procedure here,
I'll add
they
that.
should state their name and where they
Okay.
reside. Other than that, I think they look fine.
Okay. All right. Well, my reflection is, and you know, it's kind of unfortunate, but I thought the first hearing went very well. And I hope that the community spirit will guide us in having another, you know, civil and good public hearing on this matter. So great.
Well, that may be the only other thing that you need to do. There will be no outbursts of any kind, clapping, talking over a speaker or anything like that.
Right, that's really important, Amy, because people couldn't hear, because the audience is talking, it was chaos and everybody was mad. And if we could control it one person at a time respectfully
You mean at the planning board?
during the public hearing. There's the last time we had a meeting on this, there was so much
Well, and the
conversation, people
planning board
couldn't hear.
was too. We had complaints about that.
Right.
I was keeping the time. I don't remember.
It was people in the audience talking and they couldn't hear, people couldn't hear, they got distracted. What did you say? If we could, you're exactly right. We could just speak one at a time, be polite,
Right.
it'd be a lot better.
Well,
Okay,
they'll be escorted out.
correct. Okay. Any other comments on the procedures? Hearing none, let's move on to the March 3rd letter from Derek Allen. Josh, would you explain what went out to the Sunshine List this afternoon?
Well, there was a March 3rd letter that we didn't receive, and finally we did receive, and we reviewed that letter. It was really hard to tell what the proposal was. We sat down a couple of weeks ago, Michael and I and Mark came in and we just went page by page and the corrections were all made in red. Well, there was a lot of prior corrections that had been made by the planning board in red. So there's really no way to tell what the proposal was from the Save Highlands group. So we went back through page by page and we sent an email in to our attorney to ask their attorney basically to go through, color code what the proposal was and get it back to where we could look at it and understand exactly what their proposal was. And finally, we received that on Tuesday from Derek Allen. And you have a copy of that. It's actually dated March 4th now. But anyway, you got to have a copy of that. So now all the changes that were made by the Save Highlands group are in blue. So that way you can tell exactly what the proposal was.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other comments?
I think what happened, because things happen that nobody plans on, things just happen and it's not anybody's fault. But I think what happened is they got a PDF, they tried to convert it to Word. They didn't save all the changes. They made changes and you couldn't tell what anybody was saying. So we got it.
Okay.
And hopefully if we ever get another one, we'll all get it as soon as we get it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. All right. That comes to item number 12, and that is a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege, to review the letter from the Institute of Justice pertaining to the short-term rentals and approved closed session minutes. Do I have a motion that we go into closed session?
So moved.
I just want to say that I thought this should be an open session thing, but you said that our attorneys wanted it to be closed session. Is that correct?
That's the way it was set up. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But we didn't ask them. They said it should be that way. I mean, it's not like the public doesn't know exactly what that letter says. We're not telling them anything new or bad, is it?
I'm not an attorney.
Well, that's why I asked. They're the people that know
We'll
if
get
this
them.
is something that should be closed session or not.
We'll get them.
I don't think because it's out there, but if they think that there's some reason that they have a strategy that they don't want to send at the Justice Institute, that it needs to be closed session, that's fine.
That was my understanding.
Gibby is, you have Bob on there? Okay, hang on a minute.
We'll bring him up. He's not there?
I just sent him a message.
Okay.
I bet she ate dinner.
Wait till you. Okay. There he is.
We're finding out.
Bob, can you hear us?
I can, and I've been listening.
Wait till you.
So my understanding is that you wanted the closed session so that I can give you my legal advice and opinion in response to the letter that you received from the Institute for Justice.
Correct.
We're finding. Okay.
Yeah, the question is, does this need to be done in closed session or can it be an open session?
Well, my understanding was that the purpose of the closed session was so that I could give you my legal advice in response to the Institute for Justice letter. In response to the letter received from the Institute for Justice.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds like we need to go into
so
closed
we're
session.
going to closed session.
Do we have a motion to go
We
into?
already did.
All in favor? Thank you. We're in closed session. Bob, if we'll just hold on for a minute.